More track is installed, more supports were being bolted in while I was at the park, and we finally have a hint to an opening date. Let's get into this. What's up guys, Dr. Coaster here on behalf of the Georgia Coaster Connection, and welcome back to another ArieForce One Construction update. Before we get started, I just want everyone to know that all photos and footage included in any of these construction updates are free to use with credit. I'd also like to thank my Georgia Coaster Connection partner Christopher as we gather this content together. I'll link his pages down below. After making it out to the park the past several weeks, I was excited to see how RMC had progressed on ArieForce One's construction this week. Last week, we saw supports for the barrel roll and chili dip get dropped into place for the very first time. Not only that, but we also saw more progress in the double up and big drop respectively, including a potential entrance to the ride taking form. Oh yeah, and let's not forget about the outerbanked Airtime Hill shooting up, or the installation of more electrical work near the future side of the station. And that's just what RMC got done. Fun Spot installed new signs leading up to the entrance of the park, and opened the flyers to the public for the very first time. The parking lot also appeared completed, but I spotted a piece of equipment that may point to future plans for the park. So let's start with some quick general Fun Spot updates first, before jumping into this week's progress on ArieForce One. Now that the flyers have been installed, we aren't going to be seeing them in these updates anymore. If a new ride is rumored, I will be sure to cover that, but this is the last you will be seeing of the flyers. As for the parking lot, last week I asked what this piece of equipment was here, and I was told by numerous people that it's used for digging up asphalt and laying down a fresh layer of it. We've all speculated for a while now that the rest of the parking lot would also get paved, but it's also still just a dirt parking lot, so this wouldn't make 100% sense here. For me, I still think that this will be paved, but I also believe that this upcoming off-season we'll be seeing the road leading into the park get some work done as well. This road was paved long before Fun Spot ever owned the park, and it was in iffy shape before all the heavy trucks and machinery have been driving across it over the course of the last year. So I fully expect everything to have a fresh coat of asphalt for the 2023 season. Alright, now let's get into ArieForce One, because there's once again a lot to cover. Just like every other week, I started off by heading to the back of the park to check up on what the ride looks like after it passes over the arcade. Last week, we saw supports and tracks start to shoot up here for the exit of the barrel roll and the entrance of the chili dip. Initially, I wasn't sure if there was anything new here this week, but upon looking back at last week's footage, it is clear that more track has been added here for what will soon be the exit of the 0G roll and the beginning of the chili dip. This will all occur as we pass back over the arcade to wrap up our ride on ArieForce One. As for the track that has been sitting back in the woods, I still spotted a few pieces sitting back there. There are also still several stacks of supports lying around nearby the ground hugger as well. RMC was actively working back here while I was at the park, so I definitely expect more to get done here in the very near future. With that portion of the layout well covered, it was time to move in front of the arcade. Over the past few weeks, we had seen RMC assembling the supports for what appears to be the pass over the arcade, but I didn't notice much new here this week. All these supports remain assembled and lie in wait for what happens next. The supports up against the arcade also don't appear to have anything new going on quite yet, despite what we are seeing behind the arcade. While we wait on the supports over the walkway and arcade to go vertical, RMC was still busy elsewhere, because nearby they were actively working on the double up. And not just the double up, but actually passing over the ticket booth. I captured this progress from multiple different angles, but as you are seeing here, the support being installed is what will hold up the double up as it passes over the ticket booth and prepares to send riders into the big drop. With this element now taking shape, we have what is probably only about 10% of ArieForce One supports left to go vertical. So I'd fully expect this to be done by next week, and we might even see the big drop start to take shape as well. The airtime that this combo is going to provide is the most slept on of the entire ride in my opinion, and I can't wait to see more of it really soon. While RMC was hard at work here as well, they were also dividing and conquering elsewhere in the layout too. Not only did I see them behind the arcade and working on the double up, but they were also up front continuing to install the outerbanked Airtime Hill. If you compare this footage to last week's, you'll notice that we not only have more supports installed here, but we're also starting to see track get added to it as well, or at least the entrance to it. Coming out of the ZRG stall, you really aren't going to waste much time at all getting sent straight through this element as it passes over the pre-lift section of the ride. The pacing of these elements just continue to amaze me as we see more and more of these elements get installed. And yeah, sure, we still need to see it run to be 100% sure of its pacing, but with RMC's track record, I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to perform phenomenally. Other than that, other tracking supports continue to lay nearby, and RMC was busy sorting and putting them together while I gathered this footage. The supports on the outerbanked Airtime Hill continue to grow, and this should be complete in the not too distant future. Now that almost all the supports are complete, I'd imagine that we will continue seeing more track added to the ride in the next few weeks. Lastly, as I'm sure many of you are all wondering, I mentioned a hint at the opening date at the top of the video. And that is because the European IAAPA Expo was this past week in London. At the RMC booth, they were actively advertising ArieForce One as we would all expect. What wasn't expected, however, was the opening year of the coaster to be revealed. I know many people, including myself, were wishfully thinking that this coaster would open this fall. But we can't really be surprised that ArieForce One will be opening in 2023, following the various delays that we have seen throughout the construction process. I myself had come to accept this when Labor Day had come and went, and we were clearly still a ways away from even seeing construction complete, let alone testing and actual opening. I know a lot of people continue to say that they're hoping for a soft opening this year or that they could still open it by New Year's, but guys, that just wouldn't make much sense at all, I'm sorry. But heck, I could be totally wrong. I'll eat my words if that ends up being the case. To my knowledge, this is the first time that either Fun Spot or RMC has publicly stated anything resembling an opening date since the initial announcement last year. Knowing that the opening will be in 2023, I had fully expected to coincide with opening day at the park in some way, meaning that we should expect to see ArieForce One open around the first weekend in March. It's definitely a shame that the park wasn't able to get the ride open sooner, since I'm sure they were counting on additional revenue to continue investing in this park, but at least we have something relatively concrete now that we can look forward to. If you're still with me, the day that I am posting this update is the day of the Georgia Coast Connection Goliath Marathon. We will be meeting at noon, and it is never too late to have you show up and get some rides in with us. We will be there for several hours, and it shouldn't be too hard to spot a big group of people lapping Goliath together. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're expecting a good turnout. If you're able to show up, we'd be happy to have you. Thank you all for watching. That was the 27th of many ArieForce One construction updates to come. If you don't want to miss out on more construction updates like this, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as many more of these will be coming out, leading up to the opening of the ride. If you haven't already, then also be sure to follow Georgia Coast Connection over on Instagram, your home for all things ArieForce One. If you're feeling inclined, then you can follow me as well, at Dr_Coaster. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.